On January 8th, 2011, we were told by mainstream media and Pima County officials that a shooting took place that involved U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords, a federal judge by the name of John Roll, and several other individuals that were said to have been killed or injured by a lone gunman named Jared Loeffner. If you're unfamiliar with my recent work, my other exposed videos, I suggest you watch them, and you'll see that these individuals are not who they say they are, and they are being played by actors. We have most of them identified. They all share a common bond. They all appear in a Pima County Sheriff Dupnick's annual awards brochure, or are related to the Greenberg family, which I've exposed in another video. Before I get into this presentation, I want you to look at this document. This document is from Fox News. It was published on March 25th, 2011. The author is Diane Marcato. It's entitled Iowa Safety Drill Portraying Shooter as Anti-Immigration Pro-Gun Student Canceled. What this is a response to the Department of Homeland Security's X-Plan drill that was planned for Potawatomi Trainer High School. And before they had a chance to do the drill, news of the drill was leaked to the public, and within hours, the Homeland Security had called the drill off. Now, I want you to see something very, very important about this drill, this X-Plan drill, because this is the same thing that happened with the Giffords event. Now, Kevin Elwood is the superintendent of Trainer Community Schools. He was called up that day by many people asking him if were they really going to do a shooting at the school. Are they crazy? Why would they do it at a school? It's so dangerous. Why would they do that? So Mr. Elwood's response was he was as surprised as anyone to see the scenario in the X-Plan. It hadn't been discussed in any previous meeting leading up to the event or any of the planning sessions we had. In a follow-up memo distributed Wednesday afternoon, Doug Reed, the lead exercise planner for the county's emergency management agency, said the scenario was only constructed for the purpose of securing Department of Homeland Security's grant funding, which requires the drill simulate a terrorism scenario. So if you're going to have a drill at a school, you would tell the officials what's going to happen. They need to know. It's security reasons. They would have to know. So just the fact that they didn't tell them, and that all of a sudden they were going to surprise it on them, means that they were going to pull off another staged false flag. They had planned it and didn't tell the officials. So all of a sudden, when it goes the real world, they go, oh my, it's a real shooting, and then the media takes it and runs with it the same way they did with the Giffords event. If that be the case, still does not excuse the fact that Pima County sheriffs knew about it and they allowed it to happen. Now, after the fact, we have them continuing the lie, continuing the deception, and continuing to push for their agenda.
One of the things I hear most commonly, what is so hard about banning something like this is...
So now you have motive between the grants that are offered by Homeland Security and the political rhetoric, the attack on the free speech and the attack on the guns. I'm going to use a few photographs that were released by AP that day or shortly after, and I'll prove to you without any doubt that this event was a drill for the reasons I just mentioned. I will be presenting 3 images from that day, but understand it only takes one of these images to convince you 100% that the events were not what they told us. It will show you without a doubt that the events that day were consistent with what's called an FSE by Homeland Security. An FSE is a full-scale event which involves actors and multiple agencies that participate in a full-scale exercise program that is complete with fake blood, and complete with taking individuals to jail and to the hospital. And the X-Plan document was verified and validated by Homeland Security themselves when they admitted to and canceled the other X-Plan. So by them calling it off and admitting to the fact that this document is real, we can use that as a solid piece of evidence. And in that document, it shows how they do these events, and it also defines the roles of the people that participate in it. One of those individuals that participates is called a controller. A controller's job is a management type of personnel that interacts personally with the actors and with participants. In this case, it's the EMS workers that showed up at the scene. You'll notice in this photograph that we can see several EMS workers hovering over a body. They're on the ground on their knees, and we notice there's no blood, and we notice that they have gloves on. Now there's another individual that's sitting there alongside of them, and this person is not dressed in EMS uniform. But more importantly, when we look at his hands, there's no gloves. But what is he holding? He's holding what looks to be small index cards. Consistent with what the X-Plan tells us, this person is a controller. The controller's definition is to interact with the participants and the actors and give them the information that they need so they can do what they've been trained to do. This in itself should be enough information and enough evidence to show you that this was a drill. But for those that aren't completely convinced, let's go to this next photograph. This photograph is of Daniel Hernandez. You may recall Daniel was the aide to Gifford, credited with saving her life that day.
He had only been her intern for 5 days when he was asked to work at a public event, and then this happened. His boss, Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, shot point blank in the head, steps away from him. But 20-year-old intern Daniel Hernandez sprang into action, running toward the danger. And now he is being hailed quite rightly as a hero. He held the Congresswoman upright, put pressure on her wounds, and possibly helped save her life. And he joins us now live. Daniel, thank you so much for being here.
But when we look at the photograph of Daniel, we see him holding her hand, we see the EMS workers around them, but we notice that there's not a drop of blood on Daniel whatsoever. Not on his clothing, not on his skin, not on his hands, not on his pants, not on the EMS workers, not on the stretcher. The only place that we can see is on the rag on her face, a little bit of sprinkles of blood that came from the fake blood that was in this cup that was in the other picture. This is completely inconsistent with any type of head wound. If anybody knows what a head wound looks like, head wounds bleed extremely profusely. Now, we're talking a through head wound of a 9mm round hollow tip. There would be blood on him and everywhere. Now, for those of you who are still not convinced, we'll go to photograph number 3. Photograph 3 was taken out front at the crime scene. We see an individual in the background with 2 forms of communication. She's talking into one, she has the other one in her hand. She has a badge on around her neck. In the foreground, we see 2 individuals, one with a hood on, one has his arm around the female, and they appear to be a couple in mourning. Now, the other thing you must take note of is the fact that they're inside the crime scene. If this was a crime scene consistent with that of an attempted assassination of a U.S. representative and the assassination of a federal judge, the crime scene would be much more secured than this. Now, but that's not the big issue with this photograph. The big issue is, if we go to the Sheriff Dupnick's annual awards catalog, the Pima County Awards brochure, we see inside that these individuals that are inside this crime scene acting as witnesses are none other than Sheriff Dupnick's auxiliary volunteer sheriffs. We see both of their photos in the same photograph, clearly identifiable. Clearly it is them. So we have sheriff's officials taking part now as actors in this event. Now, that's just a small amount of the actors. We'll go to the next photograph. Next photograph shows individuals standing out front inside the crime scene again. Some have drinks in their hands, some have food. But we'll notice there's a tall gentleman there with the white hair. This is Tom McMahon. If you remember, Tom's wife, Mary Reed, was shot 3 times while protecting their daughter Emma McMahon. Emma McMahon, after the shots were fired, ran inside of the Walgreens and placed a 911 call. On that 911 call, she makes reference to the shooting and to bring help, but she doesn't say anything about her mother.
911, hang up, 907-4983. 911, are you reporting the shooting?
Yes, I am.
Okay, did you witness anything?
Yes, I did.
You witnessed it? What is your name?
Emma McMahon.
I'm sorry?
Emma McMahon.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't understand. What is your name?
Yep, I'm sorry. EMMAMCMBHON. Emma McMahon.
Okay, and what did you witness, ma'am?
I witnessed this her gunshot, and then I tried to duck down. I see the man that was caught shooting was held down by some other people. They took away his gun, and they're holding him down so he can't do anything else.
Okay, we do have deputies on the way, okay? They'll be there shortly. I need you to stay out of the way where you're at right now and try to get anyone else to safety without getting yourself in any harm, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'm in the Walgreens in the back, so that way I feel like I'm a little bit more safe.
Okay, well, we have deputies on the way.
And are you sending lots of ambulances too?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. 911, are you reporting the shooting?
So, of course, if your wife was shot, you, of course, as her husband, would go to the hospital with her. But we see Tom still here, which would be consistent, as an actor would have to go to the hospital or to jail, whatever their role calls for, and the rest of the actors stay back on the set here and they wait for the next command or the next scene to take place. Now, the most important thing that I want to express with this presentation is the pass-fail question that I raised in the beginning. If you can't get past this spot in the event where it's either a drill or it's not, in which we can see clearly it was a drill. So if you can't get past that, then you need to stop right there, because everything else that is past that point is useless. It's not accurate. It's usually there just to throw you off or just to sensationalize the story so they can sell more newspapers or whatnot. But the other thing that they're doing is, if you look at the other video that I just produced about the Greenbergs, we can see that the actors that took place as the Christina Taylor Greene, that whole side of the family, we can see that who they are and that they're still alive and they're not what the character that they're telling us they are. So the thing that comes with that is they set up these non-profits, and with all these events that they do, Bradley Manning, Christina Taylor Greene Fund, all these different funds, they're accepting money and taking money from people that think they're donating to a good cause. But they're not. They're just donating to the same people that are behind these events, and you're just funding the next event for them. So keep that in mind, and I hope this presentation has been helpful for you, and I hope you can use it as a tool to show people that the events that day were a drill. Please visit wellaware1.com if you'd like to learn more about this story. If you found the information in this video helpful, please consider donating to wellaware1.com so we can continue to bring more stories like this to you.